Well, the haters gonna hate, 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 and the fakers gonna fake, 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 baby. I'm just gonna making luck, a Dominion podcast.
Anyway, so are we ready to get into
Sure.
the episode? Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
All right. Yeah. Hey.
Welcome to Making Luck, a Dominion podcast. My name is Adam Horton, and here with me is Jake. Hi, Jake.
Hey, everyone. How are you?
I'm doing okay. That was probably the best intro we've had, and we've had some good ones.
We've had some good ones, yeah. And I mean, it's a great intro to a great episode and a great raffle. So, if what did we raffle off last time? I don't remember.
You get to replace a Dominion card?
You get to replace a Dominion card with one of your choice, and the winner was Jennifer Jensen, who has made a compelling argument that Fortress, as it is too strong of a big money enabler, and so she wants to make it non-terminal, and I agree. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, as far as we're concerned, Fortress is now non-terminal.
Yep. That's a great change.
Yeah.
You know, there was a long time ago that someone made a post somewhere on the internet. I can't remember where. They were talking about what you do in the kingdom with every single kingdom card. This was after guilds. But then they decided to take like the most OP strategies and try and nerf them progressively. Because I guess that's a thought experiment you can do. And the first card they hit was Fortress.
Really? What?
Fortress enables like the most OP stuff in the entire game.
I mean, I can see that being a thing, right?
Rats upgrade Fortress
Yeah.
can end the game faster than I guess just about anything. They didn't have bath salts back then. But.
Right, yeah.
But that's how powerful Fortress is.
Well, that is interesting. Like, if you, in this hypothetical game where you have every single kingdom pile available,
I think black market's really bad. Yeah.
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 It's just a terminal silver. But yeah, the, like, do you get to,
You get to play treasures.
like, if 3 piles run out, is the game over?
I think so.
Oh, wow. Do you have shelters?
I don't know, probably.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Super great.
Yeah.
Making Luck, a Dominion variant podcast.
Yeah, no, we need one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, so before we get into this episode, which is going to be on Apothecary, by the way, so we're going to be excited to talk about that, but we have a very special raffle this time. It's, I'd say, really once in a lifetime. I am going to give to whoever wins the raffle, I'm going to bestow upon you my immortality. That's right.
Wow.
I am ready to give it up. I have been for a long time.
All the immortality that you have.
Yeah, I have to, but whoever wins the raffle, whoever I end up giving it to, has to accept it willingly. So, good luck to everyone. And
so, are you gonna like take a piece of paper and write "my soul" on it, and then make them eat it?
No, they don't have to eat it. They just have to take it willingly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
but so as long as you do that, we can finally go ahead and transfer my immortality to you, and that'll be great. So,
Are you gonna stop calling people mortal from now on?
no, I'm still going to do that
Oh,
as long as I can.
mortal.
I know you are, but what am I?
That was a good one.
Yeah. So
yeah, we had some bread from last time.
yeah, we got to play a kingdom that was kind of influenced by the card procession, because that's what the episode was about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't we read the cards from that kingdom?
Sure.
You do this one.
Yeah, sure. We had monastery, patrician, nobles, warehouse, horse traders, procession, obviously, trader, cartographer, minion, and wild hunt. And I'm sorry that wasn't in cost order. I'm still trying to figure that one out with the updates to the. Okay, so once more for our audio-only listeners, I'm going to try to do this one in cost order. We had monastery, patrician, split with emporium again. We had warehouse. We had procession, trader, horse traders, cartographer, minion, wild hunt, and nobles.
That was real good. You got it. I was
Thank
worried
you.
for a second.
Yeah, no, it's hard
you
because
got
horse
there.
traders is in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. But we got there.
Yeah, so there were a couple of different strategies you could do here. I think one of them was probably pretty much stronger than the others, right?
Yeah, I think I landed on a deck that I thought was best here in a way that you go about building the deck that I thought was best.
Yeah.
Eventually.
So what did that look like?
So the deck I liked involved thinning with both Trader and Monastery.
Yeah.
And playing a lot. Basically, Wild Hunt was the focus of the deck, but you need Village to make that good, and so Procession and Nobles, both being potential villages, were important. Nobles is pretty easy to gain by processing fivers. You put minions in the deck. You put Wild Hunts in the deck. You put like all the action cards in the deck.
Yeah, there's very little of the kingdom you don't end up buying or gaining at some point here.
Yeah, Horse Traders being the only plus buy, like, it's pretty awkward, especially revolving around the $3 and $4 price points, because processing a warehouse is it's a little awkward when draw is so tight, right?
Yeah,
It's tough to
everything.
increase your hand size.
Yeah, the minion attack here was actually pretty brutal. More so than it normally is, because pretty much everything you wanted to do required you to have a 5-card hand.
Yeah, it just got a lot worse when you had one less card to work with. Horse Traders is a card that you need to put in your deck, and in order for that to be any good at all, you have to have cards that are okay to discard. And that's really tough to come by here, because you're playing warehouses. Most of the cards you don't like are already discarded, or maybe even cards you do like have been discarded. And increasing your hand size beyond 4 is just extremely difficult to do.
It really is. I think that pretty much no matter what deck you were going for here, the opener was probably Trader Monastery. I think that's what we settled on.
Yeah, and I think I might have said something about Horse Traders Monastery, but I waffled last time. Horse Traders Monastery have enough of an anti-synergy together that it was pretty bad. Like, whenever I tried to build a deck with that opening, it just seems so much slower, and like, I mean, just trying to build decks here was pretty soul-crushing in some cases. It's really tough to put things together.
Yeah, whereas if you open Trader Monastery and you do get them to collide, you're really happy, because you trash an estate, gain 2 silvers, play your Monastery, trash 2 coppers. It's pretty awesome.
Like, this is the
That's the
ideal
dream.
case, and like, it's not terribly unlikely. I mean, yeah, your opening buys need to collide, and you also need to find an estate. But man, when that does happen, it's just so good.
Well, it felt like it was happening like half the time. Like,
well, maybe you make that kind of shuffle luck.
Yeah. So I will say, like, back to Adam's point on soul crushing, this kingdom kind of was soul crushing all the way around, because one, it was a kind of difficult deck to play. Like, we mentioned in the episode that with Procession, your deck composition is constantly changing, and you have to be constantly taking inventory of what's in my deck at any given time. Do I have a potential village effect? Can I draw enough cards, etc.? How many Wild Hunts do I have? Can I play that?
How many Wild Hunts do I have? And make sure I don't play them all with 10 points on the pile, and then think I have another one. And oops!
Nope. Yeah. And the other thing was that it was very snowbally, and it swung really hard once it started to.
Yeah, like, once the deck gets going, it takes a while to get there, but once it gets going, oh man, Procession is a monster, and you just start doing all kinds of stuff. You're playing so many action cards.
And that's great if that's you.
Yeah,
but like,
if you're not, you basically lose because the game's over and piles are empty.
Like, this board was kind of a little bit frustrating to play on if things didn't work out as well for you, whether it was because you made a worse decision or had worse draws or what have you, because like there was really no counterplay. Like, once your opponent did start attacking you with minions and getting his processions to process horse traders into Wild Hunts and eventually get the nobles online, etc., there's not a lot you can do, because you're kind of, I mean, that's the deck that's good here, and you're kind of building the same thing as him, but he's like way ahead of you, or you're way ahead of him, or what have you. So there wasn't really a close game when we were playing this. One of us just steamrolled the other one.
Yeah, it felt really good when that was me.
Yeah, it felt good when it was me too. I think that happened once.
I did a lot of flailing around with the bots. I also played a couple of different decks here. Wild Hunt Big Money That doesn't work very well against a competent opponent. It only works
No.
when Jake hasn't played this kingdom yet and he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
So that was the only game I
or when I
wanted to
have
cover.
played the kingdom and I still don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, also that one.
Right.
Also, like, I tried building a deck that used minion as its primary source of draw, and that did not really work. I mean, you need to be increasing your hand size using other means. I was actually surprised at the number of times I played nobles for actions and was happy about it.
Yeah. Well, it's not like you can't use minion for draw here. It's that nobles, wild hunt, and procession together were just better. I think like.
Well, it's certainly stronger to play large numbers of the card Wild Hunt
Yeah.
than it is to play large numbers of the card Minion when your plus buy is Horse Traders.
Right.
And that discards cards from your hand. And, like, what's your village? And how are you going to get that before your Horse Trader? Like, with only 4 cards in your hand, it's surprisingly difficult to get anything really good to happen with your Minion deck.
Sure. Yeah.
So, like, double provincing in that deck just is not a thing that happens.
Oh yeah, I don't think any of us. I don't think any deck that we played got more than a province per turn at any point.
I think
In terms of buying, obviously you get the wild hunt points, and that's more than a province per turn, and there's nobles. But like in terms of actually what you buy, I don't think you shot for 16 and 2.
you didn't shoot for that. There was that one game where you ended up gaining like 1,000,000 silvers, and you did double province at one time.
That's true.
But I said that I didn't think that was good. But you were going to win that game no matter what you did, so it didn't matter.
That's true. I do remember that. How did that happen? I think I processioned a trader. And
You trashed 2 silvers.
Trash 2.
You're like, I want this traitor out of my
Yeah,
deck.
no. This is the only way this can happen.
Didn't realize he still had a monastery.
Yeah, I mean, the silver is actually didn't punish me the way they could have because it ended up.
You make your own shuffle luck.
Well, yeah, I mean, it actually they staggered out enough that I was able to use them to get wild hunts and minions, and at a certain point, once I realized that my deck was to a point I didn't need them anymore, I was able to monastery them away. So that was
good.
That was
good
cool.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think on a 5/2, I would open Minion Monastery. I think I'd be pretty happy about it.
Yeah.
I think maybe your first 1 or 2 5ers are probably Minion here, and then you just kind of pile Wild Hunts because you don't want your opponent to get too many of them, and they're fine to process. They become nobles, which are just fine.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But I would say I think that's about all I have to say about that kingdom.
Yeah.
Procession's a good card there.
Oh yeah.
Good way to showcase it.
Procession's a monster there, definitely.
Yeah. And we're gonna have some games that we played on video. Upload them. Go and check them out. There's a lot of thinkiness that goes into the way that deck gets built, and it depends a lot on your draws. So if you want more detail on this kingdom, that's how you're gonna get it.
Also, if you want to play a kingdom where it's really easy to screw up, this is the one.
Yeah. Just make sure you're already in a bad mood because the soul crushing. I'm just kidding.
I had just gotten up.
Oh yeah, so good.
It was great.
Yeah, there's one other thing that I want to touch on before we get into our meat, as maybe like a buttery spread before we grill this bread and get that delicious caramelization.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't really like tapenades.
What is tapenade?
It's like an olive relish.
Oh, I thought it was like butter. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
I don't know. A tapenade is made from olives, and I don't really like olives.
We know this now.
Yeah.
On Making Luck. A
tapenade
culinary podcast. Yeah.
So this actually has to do with a couple episodes ago when we talked about Rebuild. So Wandering Winder typed many words about Rebuild, and there's some good words in there. It turns out that he had done a good amount of work with Rebuild, back when he was still in the scene and Rebuild was causing pain to everyone.
Sure.
And they're on the forums, and I mean, there are a lot of really good points in there. There was, I think, I mean, I all I can say is I think you should just go read it. There are a couple of things that I said that he said better, and, you should go check it out.
Yeah, I had a chance to read through it. There's some good thoughts in there.
There's so many words, and, I love those words, man. They're so delicious. Like a buttery spread on a piece of bread that's about to hit a hot pan. Man,
I am just feeling slathered in butter right now.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of times when I do that, I use margarine, but,
Slather yourself?
Yes. Or bread. Because it has a higher smoke point, right? Because it's oil-based. So you can give it higher heat and get a harder sear on it. And I like things crispy and caramelized.
Which is great when you're slathering.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it has a little bit of a chemical heavy makeup, but, there are some places out there that, can give you some chemical heavy lunch meat, like
Yeah.
maybe a deli/apothecary.
Yeah, so like an apothecary is the first place that I would go for medicine or lunch meat.
Yeah.
And that's
It's like that one-stop shop.
yeah, and
The
that's
money you save in gas by not driving to two places justifies the extra price you pay, but I would be paying that higher price anyway for the premium ingredients.
right. And the premium is on your health insurance because the apothecary is not recognized by the Anthem network. But
That's unfortunate.
yeah, you have to open potion. That's their kicker. They don't
Yeah,
want you to do that.
and you start voiding all kinds of warranties or something.
Yeah, so Apothecary.
Yeah.
This is a card from the Alchemy expansion, and it gives you plus card plus action. First off, it costs 2 in potion.
Nice.
Gives you plus card plus action, and the text says reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, put the coppers and the potions into your hand, and put the rest back on top of your deck in any order.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good card.
it's a good card.
All right,
Good talk.
good podcast.
Yeah.
All right, so our next kingdom, Chapel.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. So.
So like this is a pretty good card,
Mhm.
and I think if you're gonna go for it, you should probably open with a potion, right?
Yeah, I mean, Apothecary is at its best early on in the game.
Yeah.
Because those things that we said you can draw with it, that's most of your deck at that point.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like it's definitely best early on. I'm having a hard time thinking of situations where you want an apothecary and you don't open potion for it.
Sure.
Like,
yeah,
it's pretty rare.
if you're going with Apothecary, that you declare that very early on and you commit to it, and you pretty much buy it in the first few turns every chance you get.
Yeah, you definitely want a high quantity of them a lot of the time.
Mhm.
So like I think if you're gonna play apothecary with big money, it will probably lose to just regular big money. And, this is kind of a silly comparison to make, but I think the reasons why are sort of illuminating
Yeah.
of a few key things about playing with Apothecary.
Yeah, what does this card do, and what does it not do, more importantly?
Yeah, so the things about big money that Apothecary doesn't like is, first of all, big money usually doesn't play with plus buy cards.
Yeah.
And just like every other potion card out there, almost every other potion card out there, it really, really likes to have plus buy.
Yeah, probably this one even more than others, right?
Yeah, I mean, this and Vineyard are the top two, and don't make me pick, but, like, it's really tough for me to play either one of these cards in a kingdom without the presence of plus buy.
Yeah, if you don't see the plus buy, you probably aren't buying Apothecary, right? I mean, it's kind of hard to think about why you
Edge
would.
cases, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, they're out there, but, like, I
Yeah.
don't really want to talk about them, so let's not
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So the other reason I have is Apothecary plus your coppers just doesn't really cut it as your only source of economy.
right. Apothecary isn't really an economy card. It puts the coppers into your hand, and you can argue that that is something in the role of world of economy, like early on in the game, when those coppers
Sure.
are like
Yeah.
the things you're relying on to buy things. But as you get on in the game, and both players' decks have cards in them that are of higher quality than the
Yeah.
copper, like presumably, right? The Apothecary's role, it kind of shifts a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Apothecary isn't really giving you buying power. The point of it isn't to get the coppers into your hand; it's to get them out of the way.
Yeah, so like Apothecary at its heart is a deck control card, right? It enables you to draw more cards so you can play more cards. And, it really likes drawing coppers, and unfortunately, copper is not a great card. And if
Right.
copper is all your deck does, well, your deck, chances are it's not the best deck in the world.
Right. I feel your opponent who is buying silvers and golds is probably beating you at that point.
That's very true. So, like, Apothecary, you can buy an 8th copper, and you can find those 8 coppers and your potion. You can
there we
find
go.
that too. And you can buy some provinces, but it has some issues with continuing to find those cards, those 8 coppers that you really need. And so you really don't want to be buying even more coppers to put in your deck, because now it's harder to find your apothecaries. But, like, now you've got these green cards too, And so these kind of highlight the weaknesses of Apothecary in general. Apothecary doesn't like to have cards like good cards or green cards, both of which are really good for winning games of Dominion in your deck.
It's rare to consider the odd game of Dominion where you win without, provinces in your deck or colonies or what have you, and those are things Apothecary can't draw, so that's a problem.
It's usually not because of copper that you do that, right?
Right, yeah.
So like you do need something else.
No amount of copper in the world is probably going to help you hit colony. I'm going on record.
I'm going to say approximately 11 copper are necessary for you to hit colony.
Right.
But that's just a guess. Because it could probably closer to 55.
Yeah, plus or minus 55.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the role of Apothecary, it can kind of be seen, it's not a payload card. It doesn't draw you money and then you're happy about having that money. What it is kind of is a replacement for copper thinning. And when I say that, I don't mean you don't pair it with any copper thinning ever. I mean, you don't get it to draw coppers and be excited about that. You get it so that the coppers are out of the way and you don't lament not having put them out of your deck.
Sure. So I think there are two things that are worth talking about related to that. The first one is that Apothecary really does like to have other sources of draw around.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if your only way to increase your hand size is Apothecary, then you're just putting a bunch of coppers in your hand. That's not great. We've talked about it. But realistically, you want to have other cards in your deck, and you want those other cards to not have to worry about drawing coppers. So like there's this concept of like the cards that you normally draw, and then there's these free draws you get with Apothecary. Yeah, the four cards you look at, you can maybe draw them for free if they're the right thing.
Yeah, and when we say sources of draw along with Apothecary, in this case and in this case only, we're including things like cantrips, like anything that, or even like something like Warehouse, even if it decreases your hand size in the long term, anything that lets you draw cards in the middle of your turn is kind of good with Apothecary, just because it's gotten the coppers out of the way, and simply just drawing through everything with Apothecaries, the plus card, plus action, is kind of inefficient.
So I want to make a distinction here. So draw. When I say draw, it's my own definition of draw, which is better than everyone else's definition of draw, so you should all just forget everything you know about Dominion and use my definition. The idea of draw is a way to increase the number of cards in your hand without decreasing the number of actions you have remaining.
Right.
Apothecary certainly does this, but I put it in the draw with issues category because the cards that it puts in your hand are coppers. So like you need some way to get value out of that.
Yeah.
And something like Warehouse is a great way to get value out of that. Because now you've drawn these coppers, you probably don't have many coppers on top of your deck, but you have them in your hand. And now you play a Warehouse, and you can just discard coppers, and now you have good cards in your hand, right?
Yeah, and maybe you play another Apothecary, and those coppers are back in your deck, and you can draw them again.
It's so good.
It's amazing.
There is definite synergy there. And, and that is, that's the way I see it. The distinction I wanted to make was that Apothecary is providing the draw, and in this case, Warehouse is providing the filtering to compensate for the issue that Apothecary has with its draw.
Absolutely.
Other sources of draw that really do increase your hand size are going to be much better, because drawing cards is fantastic, right? But there really is this synergy there. Without those other sources of draw, you're going to run into those same issues you have without draw, right? Especially with cantrips, too. Because if you're drawing, if you're using just cantrips to draw, you're still going to feel the pain of not being able to increase your hand size other than coppers. So, this kind of stuff isn't a way around Apothecary's issues unless you can find some kind of special synergy like Warehouse. Other examples of that are like Wishing Well.
Yeah. Right?
Wishing Well, Herald Vagrant, these kind of cards really like to take advantage of Apothecary's ability to put things back on your deck in a certain order. Mm-hmm. And you can unlock the draw capabilities of those cards using the synergy they have with Apothecary.
Sure.
So,
Vassal to a degree, too, right?
Yeah, sure. So you can really draw cards with Apothecary, and yes, that's what it's good at, but it's not that simple, and you should keep in mind its synergy with other types of draw.
definitely. So, what does Apothecary have as an advantage that it kind of does better than anything else in Dominion? Any source of draw, really.
Well, the thing that comes to my mind is cycling.
Yeah.
So, like, in the best case, I've played an Apothecary, and I've revealed 4 things that I can draw! I drew 5 cards from an Apothecary. That's super great. And, you know, even though these cards aren't the best cards in the world, they're not on top of my deck anymore, because if I didn't play that Apothecary, my next hand was 4 coppers, or maybe a potion was in there. And now I'm having a good hand because I've gotten this cycling from Apothecary. It's kind of a combination of churning and maybe some filtering, depending on what you drew.
Exactly, and again, the point of it is that there are these other cards that are also in your deck that has Apothecaries, and you're seeing those more often because you got the coppers out of the way. Just to reiterate that point again, the point of the Apothecary was to play those other cards more often, not to get the coppers.
For sure, and when we talk about tactics and how you play your Apothecaries best, I mean, that's the point we're going to be coming back to, because that's, if you have other good cards in your deck, that's the role Apothecary's playing.
Right.
For sure.
And the other thing that you think about with Apothecary as being its main strength is deck reach, quote unquote. Like, Apothecary looks at more cards in your deck, potentially, than any other non-terminal in the game.
Sure, I think there's only one card that does more, and that's Patrol, right?
Right. I mean, you could say Cartographer too, but
or like
that's
Navigator or whatever.
Yeah. But Apothecary is very good at reaching through your deck and finding the thing that you want, no matter where it is.
Yeah, that card could have been 5 deep, and as long as you can draw one more card after your Apothecary, you can have that card you really need to keep your turn going, if that's what you need to keep your turn going.
Yep.
That's definitely a thing.
So, with those strengths, absolutely comes some weaknesses, and the first one is actually kind of caused by that deck reach.
Oh, yeah.
And that is something that is a little bit trickier to manage until you've been conscious of it for a while, and you start kind of managing your shuffles around it, and that's causing bad shuffles with Apothecary.
Yeah. It's a lot of times when I play a card, if it could possibly trigger a shuffle if it gets me close, you know, I stop and think. And normally I don't have to worry about that until there's maybe 3 cards left in my deck. Yeah. With Apothecary, you kind of have to worry about that when there's maybe up to 7 cards in your deck.
Right.
So I'm playing an Apothecary and there's 7 cards in my deck, and now I'm looking at some of them, and maybe I have another Apothecary I want to play, and that one could trigger a shuffle. Or maybe I'm going to put something back, and I'm going to put cards back in such a way that I'm going to be mindful of that shuffle.
So this actually brings me to what I think is kind of an on-topic plug here. You may know that Adam and I recently started doing a Dominion coaching series or Dominion review series where we record games of Dominion and analyze them, whether it's our own or the games you guys submit to us. By the way, definitely do that. It's a great series, great way to talk about Dominion.
Yeah.
And also, Adam did one for me recently of one of my games, and this was a game that had Apothecary and Warehouse. And if you want to get into a lot of the things mechanically that you're thinking about that Apothecary does and doesn't enable, take a look at that, because there are some correct decisions I make with shuffles, and there are definitely some incorrect ones as well, and Adam will point those out as we go in that video. So
that's hard to do. Like, you have to think a lot farther ahead than what you normally do to make the best decisions. And, you know, a lot of times you can get by with a certain set of tactics, which we'll address when it comes to Apothecary. Mm-hmm. But when you're getting anywhere close to that shuffle, it changes a lot, and you have to think really far ahead, or else you're potentially going to cause a shuffle that is not going to make you happy.
Yeah, Apothecary has some other weaknesses, too, that I think it's worth going over.
Yeah.
So Apothecary really likes it when you have this one kind of card that it can draw. And sometimes you get other kinds of cards that it can't draw, and you don't always want those. Like junking.
Oh.
That's what I was getting at. It's like sometimes you're getting junked with curses and ruins.
I don't want those.
Or things that aren't coppers, and
Like silvers.
Like silvers
Oh man,
from Embassy.
wait, but I want those.
Right, yeah. So at that point, Apothecary gets pretty weak in the presence of junking attacks.
Yeah, you kind of want some way to get rid of those cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So yeah, it certainly gets a lot worse. Familiar is a particular offender because like a lot of times you can open potion and the other guy hits 3 potion and they get their familiar and you hit 2 potion. It's like, well, I guess I'll get this apothecary, but it feels so bad.
Yeah.
Because they're junking you and you are revealing curses from the top of your deck, and that's just not the best feeling in the world.
It really isn't. And also, when there are the tools that would allow you to thin enough that the junk wouldn't really be a problem for Apothecary, you have to wonder, was it really worth going for Apothecary? If you had that much thinning at your disposal, how much did you need the Apothecary in the first place?
So, yeah, I mean, that's a question you should ask yourself. But the answer is not always, I don't want the Apothecary.
Sure, no, it's not a hard and fast rule.
Like, Apothecary is so good at the start of the game that, like, even if you do plan to pursue copper thinning or just thinning in general, like, sometimes you still just want to go for it because it's potentially a very good card. Or maybe the thinning is kind of slow, or maybe the thinning is expensive, like 6 or 7, and Apothecary can help you at that price point.
Yeah, and that's all valid. So like if your only degree of making your deck better is like expand or
I was thinking forge
or something like that.
Because
yeah,
Apothecary can also get all the coppers in your hand to throw into the forge. Yeah.
Right.
Or if there's some other synergy with Apothecary that you like Herald or something.
Yeah, but again, we're stressing here again that the Apothecary, both in the short and the long term, really needs plus buy.
Yeah, I don't think I would be going for that without some kind of plus buy for sure. Otherwise, it just doesn't seem worth.
Right.
So, I mean, among these issues, I think also in general is just consistency. Apothecary is good when you have coppers in your deck, and if you have coppers in your deck, you could draw those at the start of your turn or at an inconvenient time. And that really just isn't as good as thinning coppers when it comes to consistency. Like, yeah, Apothecary can, if all goes well, just you draw your deck anyway, Apothecary helped, and now you have these extra 7 coppers and a potion to spend, and you're super happy because you have these extra buys and this extra money, and that's great. But the deck just isn't as consistent, and particularly when it comes to greening, like Apothecary does not handle that very well. So you really are looking for certain types of synergy to compensate for that fact.
Yeah, like any other control card in the game, your turn is much better typically if you have it in your hand at the start of your turn. And it's kind of hard to guarantee that with Apothecary, outside from buying a ton of Apothecaries. And
it's a big thing that you end up doing a lot when there's no thinning, is buying a lot of Apothecaries.
Yeah, and you'll do it, and you'll be happy about having them, but, like, they don't win you the game, the Apothecaries. So every time you buy an Apothecary, that's not something else you were investing in. So really, you want to get away with having as few copies of Apothecary as you can get away with without losing reliability or consistency.
Yeah, so this is something that I remember nitpicking when we were talking about this episode before. So like one of the best ways to have reliability other than spamming, and we're going back to that cycling episode. Mm-hmm. Man, that's such an ubiquitous concept in Dominion. I'm so glad we did an episode about cycling. Yeah. We're so great, Jake. Especially me, but also you.
Thanks, Adam.
No problem. But so really the best one was top decking, right? And so a lot of the times I find myself buying an Apothecary every turn because I have this potion. Mm-hmm. And it's only 2 coins more, and I've got the buys, and I can top deck my stuff. So that's one example where spamming Apothecaries is just kind of a natural thing that happens, and that's a good way to start your turn with one. And that doesn't necessarily apply to other cards as much. I think really Scrying Pool, because of its 2 potion cost, is another big one. Yeah. Because you don't need 5 Scrying Pools to draw your deck, but sometimes you just want to have the extra one and top deck it. So that's one situation. But
Scrying Pool also has a stackable attack that can be kind of nice sometimes too. But
can be, yeah. Sure.
We're getting into other issues there, but yeah, go ahead.
Making luck. A Scrying Pool
A
podcast.
tangential podcast. Yeah.
A 2-potion podcast.
Yeah. I mean, open potion. Yeah.
Speaking of university, you cannot gain Apothecary with university.
Damn. I hate it when I can't gain university with Apothecary. Damn.
Well. Anyway, so I mean, other forms of reliability are, like the standard Scheme. Well, Scheme is amazing for reliability, right? That's what the card does. But
Scheme and Apothecary are really good together.
Yeah, but if you're going to use the Havens or the Gears, you still want extra copies of the Apothecary.
Yeah.
So they're not super that bad, but at the same time, if you're going to thin your coppers, don't keep buying the Apothecaries if they're not that good for you, or if you need those 2 coins in a potion, don't get the Apothecary. It's not an autopilot decision, but it is good a decent amount of time.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing that Adam mentioned before with Gear and Haven, and we can look at you kind of save in the same boat, brings me to the aspect of Apothecary where it is kind of a feast or famine type of control card. It sometimes you have that situation that Adam talked about a second ago where you reveal 4 coppers and you got +5 cards, +1 action.
Feels so good.
And that's amazing.
Oh man, I need a cigarette.
Other times, you play your Apothecary and reveal estate, curse, province, or whatever, and then you're sad. And so...
there's not much you can do about that either.
Right.
Which is kind of a pain in the tuchus.
So you'll find that the same number of Apothecaries can have a really variable impact on your turn by turn. So when you see things that let you put aside extra copies of Apothecary you didn't have to play, what that is telling you is that you can maybe get away with fewer copies of Apothecaries than you would normally try to get away with. Because on those awesome turns where things did work out for you and you got to overdraw everything and you still have Apothecaries, you can set them aside and get them for next turn. Yeah,
that's true. I just want to say that doesn't mean that it was a mistake to get those extra Apothecaries.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just means that there's a little bit even more reward for getting those things and for getting the Apothecaries.
Yeah, one of the situations where overdraw can be it could be a whole nother episode on overdraw, but
Sure.
One of the situations where overdraw can be a lot more okay than normal. Overdraw being where you're drawing more cards than what you have in your deck. I play a card that normally would give me cards, and I don't get it because I already drew everything. That's definitely more okay with Apothecary because if Apothecary is good in a deck, I probably didn't thin my coppers. The deck has consistency issues, so overdrawing in that case is making me have good turns more often, and that's certainly worth it in a lot of cases.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there are 2 synergies that I wanted to point out with Apothecary before we move on to the tactics.
Sure.
The first one is Scout. Rest in peace, we hardly knew you. Scout's a really bad card, and you gotta keep that in mind. But Apothecary decks, they choke on green. Scout is great for clearing green off of your deck. If there's one card in the entire game of Dominion that will make Scout more likely for me to buy than any other card, I'm pushing Scout up into the 1% chance I would buy this card.
Oh, wow.
It is Apothecary that does it.
That's pretty impressive.
And it does have a pretty special synergy. So, just wanted to shout out my boy, Scout. Rip in peace.
We'll miss you, Scout.
Too soon.
Yeah.
#, never forget.
I bought it on a dare once.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
I lost.
Nice.
Yeah, so...
The other one is Native Village.
Yeah.
Apothecary Native Village is by itself pretty good. I mean, you're going to need some plus buy, obviously, because Apothecary needs it. But
it turns Native Village into an actual thinning option.
Yeah, most other ways of enabling you to use Native Village as a recursive island mat, most of those require you to draw your deck first. And Apothecary, I think, is the one card out there that kind of breaks this.
Yeah, Cartographer, but other than that...
But am I buying 10 Cartographers to put in a deck?
Perhaps not.
Yeah, Cartographer doesn't draw those coppers, and so Apothecary Native Village deck is something that can just have 8 coppers in it and be really fast to set up.
Yeah.
Or maybe, if you throw a woodcutter in there. Rest in peace. We hardly knew you. It was too soon. Sorry.
We'll miss you, Woodcutter.
Nomad Camp, I guess. But you can aim for a province plus Apothecary turns.
Grove.
Sure, that one.
The new woodcutter. Yeah.
That's fine. Yes. Hashtag the new woodcutter. Woodcutter from 2017.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, just remember all those noobs back in 2007 that were playing with woodcutter?
Yeah.
What a bunch of plebs.
Yeah.
We're so much better than them.
Yeah, buying our sacred groves.
They must be low-level players and really bad at the game, and they should quit.
Yeah, definitely. I think that if you aren't really, really good at Dominion, you're never going to be.
Yeah, so just why bother trying?
Yeah, I mean, I hope you enjoyed the podcast, though.
Yeah. We're not talking about you guys, right?
Yeah, no.
You guys are really good.
Definitely.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, Apothecary Native Village, it's a pretty good deck with any sort of plus buy. It's really good, and it kind of represents an archetype of decks. A lot of people ask, when is it worth building a deck that has a lot of action cards, maybe draws a lot of cards? They use the E word, but like I'm going to be more descriptive. When is it worth building that deck? When you can't get more than one province per turn. And what I'm thinking of is like really fast, consistent province per turn decks.
Okay.
And Apothecary is really great at that because it gets you off the ground quickly, and if you can find some way of consistency, which Native Village is just really good at, then this is the kind of deck that can be worth building. I mean, this is going to beat the crap out of big money with any kind of... I mean, yes, there's plus buy, so about 2 provinces per turn, but like this is so good, right, that maybe you don't want to go that far. So you want to talk about how to play your Apothecary deck well?
Yeah, so there is some execution to playing Apothecary. There are lots of cards in the game and lots of players who play this way, where you just indiscriminately play the actions that are in your hand and see what happens.
I mean, it's easy. I play my villages, and then I play my non-terminals, then I play my terminals, and then I play my treasures.
You sound like that most of the time.
Yeah.
Apothecary actually has some execution in terms of optimizing it and making sure you don't hurt yourself with it, right?
Yeah.
So we've talked before about in the episode about how Apothecary has some natural draw on it. It has the draw that is on the card.
Yeah.
And
Plus
then,
1 card.
Yeah. And then it has its free draws, quote unquote, that it gets to look at cards, and if they qualify, you get to draw them for free.
Yeah, that's so good. So like every other source of card draw in the game is like that natural draw.
Yeah.
So any other card that gives you plus cards, or even the 5 cards you start with in your starting hand, like all that is natural draws, and those are better, right? Because they can draw good cards.
Right.
And then you have these crappy free discount bin Walmart clearance section draws.
But you got a bunch of them.
But you got a lot of them.
Yeah. And
save money, live better.
The trick.
Hashtag register trademark. Anyway.
Hashtag Apothecary. But yeah, but the trick to optimizing your Apothecary play and maximizing what it can do for your turn is to maximize the number of free draws that you get off of it. So basically, the ideal situation, the perfect Apothecary play, you are never drawing coppers or potions any other way but with Apothecary. So you make that as likely as possible by making sure that the cards that Apothecary is seeing always have a chance to be copper or potion.
And if you have achieved that, then like you've basically achieved the effect of thinning those coppers from your deck.
Right.
Granted,
exactly.
you had to start your hand with an Apothecary and find some way to not draw them in your opening hand, so that's a little tough to do. But that's really the goal that we're going for. We want basically the text of every other card that we're using to draw to read +1 card, but don't worry about those coppers in that silly potion.
It's not going to be the coppers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the way that you definitely are getting the most out of an Apothecary deck in a turn is that you are drawing through those coppers and then using your other sources of draw to look at anything else that you know isn't a copper or a potion.
Yeah, so you want any unknown card in your deck that you're going to potentially draw, something that you haven't already revealed to an Apothecary. You want that to be revealed first with an Apothecary so that the coppers can be filtered out. Or another way of saying it is that you want to minimize the number of times that you have to draw a card with some natural draw that could possibly be a copper.
Yeah, and one other way to put it, too, is that basically you don't want Apothecary to see the same card twice without drawing it.
Yeah, that's an inefficiency that you kind of want to avoid.
Yeah. If you play Apothecary and you reveal a card, you either want to draw it some other way or not draw it, but basically you don't want to play another Apothecary and reveal that same card again. If you're doing it that way, there's something inefficient about how you're playing your Apothecaries.
Sure. So I think an example that I like to do is, let's just say we have, I've just played an Apothecary, and I revealed 3 schemes and an Apothecary. The scheme can be any cantrip, so I'm just using scheme because we like scheme with Apothecary. And we're smart, so we put them in our deck. So we played an Apothecary, we revealed 3 schemes and an Apothecary, and in our hand, we have like 4 schemes and 4 Apothecaries. So we can do whatever we want. What do you do next? How do you put the cards back, and then what do you play?
Well, you go ahead and put the schemes on top and draw them with schemes, and then by the time you play the Apothecary, you draw the last thing that you knew wasn't a copper, and then you're looking at 4 new cards.
Yeah, so in this case, the order you put them back isn't so important, but I'm going to draw 3 of them with scheme, play the Apothecary, draw the 4th one naturally, and get that fresh view of those 4 delicious mystery cards, and they're all coppers. Happy ending.
That's how it happens. Except they're not. They're 4 provinces because Adam didn't do it right. But
no,
it's
they're
fine.
coppers, Jake. Happy ending.
Happy ending.
Dominion making luck. A happy ending podcast.
An illegal podcast. But the
Wait, there's nothing. We don't even have the explicit tag. I picked out every swear word. And some words that aren't even swears.
Right, that's true. Just because bleeping is funny.
It is.
But the other thing is that if you are drawing, not necessarily to the point where you have your deck in your hand, but you're seeing your whole deck every turn, you optimize by discarding coppers over other things, so that when you play the Apothecaries, you're looking at things you could potentially draw for free again. I'm thinking about Warehouse again. When I go into that,
it feels really good to fill your discard with coppers and potions, and then draw the rest of your deck and have Apothecaries left over.
Yeah,
and then just for a fact that I'm gonna play this. You're gonna play this Apothecary, and it's gonna draw 5 cards.
Yeah,
like that for a fact. And I mean, it's hard to set up, but this is difficult to do. But
it's therapeutic.
It feels so good to do it.
Yeah,
it's like the inner Johnny inside of you is awakened.
And if you've had a long day, you need that, right? Sometimes we all need to just play an Apothecary and draw 4 coppers off it,
and know that we were guaranteed to draw those 4 free draws.
Yes, because we're elite.
Because we're so elite. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So we've gone into sort of how you build an Apothecary deck and how you play it, what the goal is, and again, that goal is variable based on what the other cool cards were that you put into your deck. Can you think about anything else that we really want to cover with this card?
That's all I got.
Yeah. So I think that's about all I would get into as well. Apothecary is a really fun card to play with. Other than that, there's a lot of execution behind it, and definitely try to work it into your kingdoms.
Yeah, for sure.
Let us know if you think we've missed anything.
As always. Yeah, holler at us on the forums. You can go to adamhorton.com. Go to the forums there. There's a blog, there's forums. Forums have an episode a thread for every episode of the podcast. Or if you're listening on YouTube, make a comment or send an email. I'm adam@adamhorton.com. Or
show up at his house.
Show up at my house.
Yeah.
I guess. Sure. Why not?
That's what I do.
It is what Jake does. Yeah. But yeah, holler at us and let us know what you think. And once again, we can shamelessly plug that coaching series.
Yeah, so we are, as always, doing a series where if you are able to record your games, and by the way, it's really easy to do that. Just do a quick Google search on whatever machine you're using. I promise you, there are like 4 ways you could do it in like 5 minutes. So record your games and either upload them to YouTube, send them as files, what have you, and we can go through them turn by turn and just have a great time commentating games of Dominion. Maybe we'll learn something like how wrong I can be about these kingdoms that we're talking about. Yeah.
That's the main thing we learned from... No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are a few episodes already, so be sure to check those out. Hopefully you get something out of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was hoping that this episode wouldn't be an open-faced sandwich, right?
No, we can't really do an open-faced sandwich in the Apothecary. That's actually been illegal since, like, the 90s.
Yeah. So, let's get ourselves up to code here and slap another piece of bread on this bad boy.
Absolutely.
All right, so we have Kingdom, and here's the cards. Royal Blacksmith, Apothecary, Amulet, Oasis, Herald, Sea Hag, Spice Merchant, Apprentice, Contraband, and Vampire. Once again, for our audio-only listeners, Royal Blacksmith, Apothecary, Amulet, Oasis, Herald, Sea Hag, Spice Merchant, Apprentice, Contraband, and Vampire.
Yeah, so I think Apothecary's probably kind of strong here.
Yeah.
You do have thinning options. Actually, I don't know if Apothecary is obligatory here, though.
I think I would go for it.
I think I'm leaning toward it, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Like, there are things here that you could ignore Apothecary for. Like, there's enough thinning that you could build a deck that has done something else instead.
Are you for serious right now?
You could. I'm saying Apothecary is still a strong consideration.
I think Apothecary is part of the best deck here for sure. So, like, the elephant in the room, I really shouldn't have used that word to describe the Sea Hag because she's going to get mad at me. Well, it's too late. We're committing. The elephant in the room, her name is Melbelinda.
Yeah,
and
this time.
She's junking, and Apothecary doesn't like that. But fortunately, it's a bad card, and the presence of Amulet is basically enough for me to ignore Sea Hag. I mean, I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to invest more in thinning. But I don't think Sea Hag's good here, and if my opponent goes for it, like, I'm still going to open Potion and Amulet, thin those estates, get some good turns. I will pick up a Spice Merchant. I will probably be thinning my coppers. But I do want Apothecaries in the deck because, like, Herald is a great synergy. It's going to help me actually draw a lot of cards. That seems to be the main source of draw on the board.
That's true.
I want to do lots of stuff.
Yeah, so the only reason I would buy Sea Hag here is if I realize that my opponent has not invested in thinning early on, and of course you don't want to rely on your opponent making a mistake.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could get Sea Hag in the right situations.
Yeah, I would get Sea Hag to punish an opponent who hasn't built in ways that would counter it. But the interesting thing that I am waffling over here is whether or not to get a Vampire. I'm leaning toward yes. There's no really powerful 5-cost here that I'm looking to gain a lot of, but I could see using it to get some extra Heralds.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Vampire's a really good card. It's tough to ignore under any circumstances.
I mean, it's attacking your opponent, too, with those hexes, and those can be brutal.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, the plus buy here, Contraband, is not a good card, so you probably don't want it. Spice Merchant needs you to gain treasures, which Amulet can do, and also Vampire can potentially do, but Vampire, that whole Vampire bat cycle, doesn't actually increase the number of cards in your deck, which is kind of an important distinction for Spicy. So,
yeah.
I mean...
And it's going to take a while before Spice Merchant can increase the number of cards in your deck. Because you're going to have to get a Village effect off from Herald, and then you have to gain cards with Amulet, and then trash cards with Spice Merchant.
Yeah, I think that's the process.
And that's just going to take a while. It's not that you can't do it. You definitely can. But...
Well, I mean, Apothecary accelerates you so far towards that goal. Like, I mean, I'm definitely going to open Potion for it, and I could actually see myself getting a Royal Blacksmith in the same deck. Not even kidding.
The Apothecary Royal Blacksmith combo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to draw your coppers with Apothecary, then you have more to discard with Royal Blacksmith.
Yeah, and then you can redraw the coppers with Apothecary.
Amazing, yes. Okay.
See, like, I normally give some kind of a troll to start the kingdom, and that was gonna be it. But
it might actually be good.
I actually think... No, I mean, they go in the same deck. Obviously, you don't get a Royal Blacksmith until your copper's mostly gone, but, like...
Sure.
That's a thing that's going to happen, and I think Apothecary is still good here.
Yeah, so Heralds are going to run out. I think that's kind of a foregone conclusion. I don't see myself stopping buying... I mean, whatever I'm doing, I don't see myself not buying Heralds if I have the opportunity to do so.
I mean, it's a really good card. I don't know what my hypothetical opponent's doing, so I'm not going to say they're going to run out, but yeah, it's a really good card.
Yeah. I think I want more Heralds than my opponent gets.
It's a good card. I want a lot of them.
It's the only Village effect here, and...
Sure. I mean, I don't want to play 10,000 terminals in a turn. So,
yeah, I mean, there's no terminal that's amazing,
I mean, you got to get an Amulet in there. You're probably going to throw, like, 1 or 2 Blacksmiths in there. your Spice Merchant's going to be terminal, but like if I get 4 Heralds, I'm going to be just fine.
Sure. I have to wonder too if we would ever find ourselves in a situation where we have more control over our deck than our opponent does, to the point that it's worth gaining a Sea Hag just to slow them down a little bit more. And I could see it happening. So, like, either some better draws or some better play could lead you to a position where you're drawing your deck and you are maybe even doing gain and play tricks. Oh, wait, no, you can't do that here. You are drawing...
Amulet.
Yeah, I meant like gain a Sea Hag and play it tricks.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you are drawing your deck here and playing everything you've got, and your opponent is still getting there. Slowly but surely getting there, but they haven't... Things haven't worked out quite as well.
They're so far behind that they never got a vampire.
You still... I mean, they're going to trash the curses that you give them, but I do have to wonder if we're going to get to a point where it will be worth it to get a Sea Hag in the mid-game as a tactical play just to slow them down a little bit more.
That's not impossible, but I think that's kind of edge casey. I'd be surprised if it came up.
I'll look for those windows, and if I see them, I'm going to take them, and I'm going to realize that they weren't there and lose, but we'll see.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well,
yeah, so...
That's all I got. That's all I have to say on this kingdom. I look forward to winning many games of Dominion.
Yeah, just
against Lord Raddington.
Yeah.
An important part of the process for not doing terrible things, although this one seems a little more straightforward to play. I don't think I'll be losing to Lord Raddington.
I kind of hope that Lord Raddington couldn't... I don't know.
Man,
I don't actually play against Lord Raddington like at all.
That Highway Wish board, I lost a lot of games to Lord Raddington on that.
Like, I don't play Lord Raddington because I don't get the feeling that it would be good practice for me. Like, I don't know. I can't picture Lord Raddington behaving like an actual opponent.
Yeah, and I mean, you're basically playing solitaire at that point.
Dominion is so much about counterplay for me. Like, I mean, not always. It depends on the board. Like, those are the games of Dominion I enjoy, at least. So
yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it if you do enjoy playing games against Lord Raddington. But
it's not my favorite, but sometimes I do it so I can talk more intelligently about the kingdoms here. We put a lot of work and care into what we say here on Making Luck, a Dominion podcast.
Oh, we're supposed to be doing that?
At least I do.
Oh, I'm just kind of... Oh, God.
You're the color commentator, right?
I'm so sorry.
I'm supposed to be the smart guy, and you're supposed to be the funny guy, right? You're supposed to have that?
Oh, I thought it was the other way around. Crap.
Okay, next episode, you be the smart guy, and I'll be the funny guy. And I'll just troll you the entire time, and you're going to have a tough time. Wait, I actually take us off topic more than you do.
That is true.
You brought up the Topinod, but then I was talking about... Melbalina or whatever face.
There was an elephant at some point.
Yeah, and then there was that margarine discussion. Those were good times.
We went into those. The sandwich metaphor definitely carries us a good ways.
Yeah, I love sandwiches.
Yeah.
Just watch an episode of Iron Chef Gauntlet where they had to make sandwiches.
Oh, how was that?
One lady made an ice cream sandwich and deep fried it. Oh my god, she won that challenge. I want that. Oh, so good.
I wish that sandwich was in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so enter the raffle and have a shot at me bestowing upon you my immortality. And
sounds great.
We will see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
You're not raffling off my sanity, are you?
No, I mean, to the point that you could... To the point that I haven't already, right?
I'm unfazed.
Yeah, but... Man, I'm enjoying my new things.
Your new things. So how many times have you driven my car?
It's been great.
Have you even been in my car?
It's been great, yeah.
You know,
nice.
I went to go get the tires rotated on my car today, and while I was waiting,
thank you.
And while I was waiting, I was playing my 3DS that I still have.
That was nice of you to rotate the tires for me. Thanks.